people need to realize the growth potential within the trades. Don't just think you're going and you're slugging a wrench. Honestly, the opportunity in the skilled trades is endless.
Welcome to the Food Grads Podcast, the podcast that takes you on a fascinating journey into the hearts and minds of the amazing people who work in the food, beverage, and agricultural industries. My name is Veronica, and I am a PhD candidate studying fat-based food emulsions. On this podcast, we share insights from professionals at all stages of their careers. Find out what they do, why they do it, and how they are changing the food world one day at a time. So no matter what your passion is, there's always something for everyone in food, and we'll help you find it. Hello everyone, it's Veronica. Welcome back to the Food Grads Podcast. On today's episode, we are talking about millwrights that work in the food manufacturing industry, how to become one, and career progression as a millwright. Our guest today is Noel, VP and Business Representative of UBC Millwright Local 1916. The Millwright Regional Council is composed of 13 affiliated local unions of the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America across Canada. They represent thousands of women and men working as progressive cross-trained construction and maintenance professionals with exceptional skills to install, maintain, diagnose, and repair precision machinery. UBC Millwrights are vital partners in industries as diverse as energy, automotive, aerospace, food processing, pharmaceuticals, and more. This episode of the podcast is powered by Careers Now. Careers Now is Food and Beverage Ontario's multi-year workforce development initiative that is connecting students and job seekers with employers in Ontario's food and beverage processing industry for exciting career opportunities. Check out careersnow.ca for more information on exciting jobs, career information, industry mentors, and training opportunities for professional development. Hi, Noel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Amazing. I'm so looking forward to having you on the podcast because I've been wanting to speak to those in the millwright area. Like I have a general idea of what you do in that, but I feel the information that's very specified in the food industry is kind of lacking, at least from where I've been looking. So I'm really happy to have you on here to shine some light on that.
I'm glad to be with you, and I appreciate the invite. It kind of happened pretty quickly from when I met your colleague at a golf tournament and being here today with you. So I'm actually I'm happy that it happened like that.
Well, now the dots are putting together because I didn't know where you met Nicole, and that now I know exactly what we're talking about. So it's going to be a great conversation. So instead of us rambling and talking about this type of stuff, why don't you properly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more?
My name is Noel. I am the business representative for UBC Millwright Local 1916. We're based out of Hamilton, Ontario, but we represent, well, my local 1916. We represent from basically Grimsby to Owen Sound, Woodstock to Milton. So we have a fairly large area. And then to go beyond that, we have 8 other locals that are in Ontario as well that make up the other jurisdictions, and then 13 across Canada. So we're a well-oiled machine that we're all together throughout Canada. So it's very helpful when, say, a contractor or a facility needs people or skilled trades millwrights to come and do work at their plants. It's basically a one-stop shop, because whether they come to me or a different local, we can always connect them with the proper workforce in order to get their jobs done. So it's something new for us, this council. We're almost 1 year in where we are our own council throughout Canada. So it's getting the word out there about us and trying to provide the best labor force that we possibly can for our stakeholders.
That's amazing. That's always one thing I've always really liked about the whole millwright world is I feel like there's this team, and if you can't find someone, you know someone, and like it's a really good avenue to just be a part of this giant team of something it's really cool.
Yeah. No, it is, and that's you get a lot more done when you work together, right? And that's, like I said, like last November we merged, because before we used to be just in Ontario. Our council used to be called the Millwright
Mhm.
Regional Council of Ontario, and then last November our Vegpro International, because our Millwright, the Millwright Union, we actually are part of the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America.
Okay.
So we're technically part of the Carpenters Union, but there's a lot of entities with the Carpenters Union as well. The things that people would never even think of are part of Carpenters trade scope, like pile driving or underwater welding. Like those are all part of that, our umbrella underneath the UBC. So, but going back to the Millwrights, yeah, we merged all the councils in Canada into one and it's working. Honestly, we've had very good success this last year with this, and our stakeholders and contractors and everything, they're appreciative of it, because it was basically a long time coming, and it happened, and now it's getting everybody up to speed and getting the word out there.
Let's take a step back, as interesting it is, and let's focus a little bit on you because I want to know about your career journey, like how you got into this field. So, would you be able to speak to your career journey and why you decided to become a millwright?
So my career journey a little bit different than what most people go through. So right out of high school, I was pretty fortunate to excel at a sport. I played lacrosse growing up and hockey, but the sport that I excelled at was lacrosse. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to school in Louisville, Kentucky. So I spent a few years there to learn the culture, which is much different than ours here. But it's it was a very good experience to go there and do the school route. Something I couldn't turn down for the opportunity. I took business there when I was there. My major was business administration. Then when I left there, I still really didn't know what I wanted to do, because it's really hard. And I say this a lot on most of my
Hmm.
speaking engagements, but especially with parents and guidance counselors and people that are looking for career paths in the younger years. It's really hard to ask a 16-year-old to figure out what they want to do for the rest of their life. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Yes.
like I'm 37. I'm still trying to figure it out. So I think I got a good handle on it, but hey, there's always things that get thrown your way that you got to deal with, right? So I went to
Absolutely.
Brock after that. Yeah, did a lap at Brock just to try to figure out what was going on. And after that, I had a good chat with my mom after I finished there, and she said, you gotta, why don't you consider the trades, because that's where, if it wasn't for lacrosse, that's where you would have went right away. So right out of high school, because like my father's an aircraft engineer. He was with Bombardier for 34 years. So he's retired now, thankfully. But we've always been mechanical. I've always helped him with the vehicle, the 1970 Nova SS that we built. We built the Jeep together. Like it's just always between my brothers and him, we were always mechanically inclined, right? Because my dad's a gearhead. That's what he is. And so he was always there with us. And when I was at Brock, like I said, I didn't even know what a millwright was. I had no idea what it was. When somebody mentioned it to me, didn't even clue in. And then I was doing a job with my father. There's actually an airplane called the Super Connie. It used to be a restaurant by Pearson. It was at Torbram and Dairy by Pearson Airport there. And it used to be a restaurant. And they wanted to move that to the museum in Seattle. So they contracted my dad's contract or company, and we moved it. And the guy that we hired to do the crane work and be crane operators he mentioned, he said, hey, you ever consider being a millwright? I'm like, I have no idea what that is. He literally explained a little bit and pulls notes what it was. I researched it, and I was like, "That's actually pretty cool. Like you're not just doing one thing; it's multiple. You're doing multiple tasks, multiple facilities, multiple industries. So it's different almost every day. So it piqued my interest, and then I applied to the union, did the aptitude test, and I think I'm year 17 now, or I'm going into year 17. So
Wow, congrats.
uh, different route, but it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there.
I like to hear that I think that's the things that we need to hear is I think a lot of people think about are in the two paths where they have a general idea, like, okay, millwright sounds right, or there's that I have no clue. And I like the fact that you didn't come right out of school, and it goes to show that it is an opportunity that you don't have to have it figured out right when you come out of high school. Like maybe you tried something out, didn't work, and then you came back to it. So I think that's a good thing for those to hear. And we have to dive into it though. Like, what is a millwright? Clear the air for us right now.
All right. So in a nutshell, we are industrial mechanics. So the way I like to explain it is if you've ever seen the show called How It's Made, all
Hmm.
that machinery, we install and maintain all of that. And then so any like from, small bottling lines that put, caps on pop bottles to making steel slabs that get turned into cars to from that steel slab that goes then to the car plant that gets stamped and be put in the shape. We deal with every single piece of equipment that is involved with the production of basically anything in industry. So it's a very broad range scope of what we do, but we're essentially, in a nutshell, we are industrial mechanics. We build and maintain machinery and facilities, and there's lots of scopes with it, from welding and fabricating to alignment to hoisting and rigging to it's there's so many different variations of millwrighting that it's really what piqued my interest, because usually when you read about other trades and you start doing your research of, hey, what's going to interest me, you're like, you tend to see like with certain trades it's like, oh, it's the same thing over and over, and then you get to the millwright side, you're like, oh, like this is, I could do everything. So that's really, especially with someone like an attention span like myself, it piqued my interest, and it was something different. So there's a lot of variations of it. Like some people can stay that niche market, we'll stick just to the optical and laser alignment side. Some will be just want to be specialist welders or riggers, or just, the straight up, you go in, you diagnose something and you fix it. And again, it's interesting, and to me, it's the most interesting. Especially the more I get into this now, and then the more I deal with the other trades, which I deal with. Part of my job now is dealing with the other trades as well, and I don't regret my choice of being a millwright. That's for sure. Just for the different work scopes that I get to deal with, or I got to deal with when I was on the tools.
That's amazing. It's kind of crazy that most people don't know, like I know what a doctor is, I know what this is, considering that it sounds as though being a millwright, they touch so much of our lives in terms of the things that are built around us, coming off of, speaking to the food. If you're building or maintaining the equipment that makes the food, that touches our lives like every day, or the equipment to, I'm thinking just the things that are around me. Like, it sounds like such a necessity job, and it's kind of crazy that more people don't have a good definition of what it is.
Yeah, it's like I said, like what I like to say to our, because obviously, we're in the a new industrial revolution here. We're at the
Hmm.
beginning stages of one with the automation and AI, but it's like I can say, like, with us, we don't see, like, we see new industries, say with automation. Like, you go into a food plant, say I'm going to use Frito-Lay for example. I've done quite a bit of work at that facility in Cambridge. You go into a place that everything is automated. You just have people, there was a time there in the early 2010s where, we were taking, for I'll give you a prime example of a job we did. It was on the Dorito line, or for the Dorito bagging. So all the chips, it comes off the
Hmm.
line, then it goes into packaging or whatever. So before, they used to have about six different bays, or six different areas. So each area had three workers in it, right? From taking box offline to grabbing the chips, sticking the whatever 24 or 35 bags in each box, and then it goes to the next person that bundles it up, puts it on the skid. So we did a job that basically removed, out of those 18 jobs, we removed unfortunately about 16 of them, because then they put robots in. So that's the automation. That robot was able to do three people's jobs. So it was different seeing that. Like, that was really my first realization about, like, the effects of automation and what's coming with manpower and jobs. But at the same time, you got to think, like, hey, if we stopped just then and just complained, when the rail system went in, you know what I mean? And then we went from
Hmm.
horse and buggy to a rail system, or from one person building a car to the automation line that Henry Ford developed in the early 1900s. Like, you either adapt or you die. And it's simple as that. And that's a big thing. And development and modernization is going to happen whether we like it or not. And you got to adapt to it. You got to learn from it. You got to upgrade your training for it. So getting back to the millwright part is
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen much effect on the millwrights yet because guess what? All those machines that are still or that require the work, they still need humans to fix them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like they
Mm-hmm.
still need the millwrights to change that bushing, or to swap out a robot head, or to because they haven't got there yet. Are they going to? Probably. Okay, but it's just it's just you have to have an open mind to it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because automation's here, AI's here. It's how are we going to deal with it, and no matter where you go, like I said, whether it's food and beverage or steel making or auto plant, like automation's there. So you got to upgrade your skills, accept it, and adapt to it. And once you do that, you won't worry about all the negative stuff. It'll be like, no, how do I become the best at my job? Like, what do I do to be the best in my job so that I can be employable? And that's where training comes in.
Well, let's take a step back. Let's talk about the education and training requirements to become a millwright, and then we'll bridge that conversation into things are maybe emerging technologies that are affecting millwrights. So this is a question that a lot of people I feel also might off-put someone to going into the skilled trades. Is the education required? So would you be able to speak to just that general area?
Yeah. So every province, so when we register an apprentice, we're under the trade code, the Red Seal trade code called 433A. It's industrial millwright mechanic. Okay.
Okay.
So with every province will have different criteria through their Ministry of Labor, what it takes to basically sign up to be registered as an apprentice. I can speak on Ontario because that's what I'm familiar with. Ontario is grade 10 math with a GED or equivalent. Okay, high school GED or equivalent. And that says it right on the Red Seal website, or sorry, on the Ontario Ministry of Labor Skilled Trades Ontario websites. So that's the base minimum. So basically, they're saying is you need to have graduated high school or have an equivalent, which in today's day and age, like high school should be your bare minimum of what you're getting. Like
Okay.
after that, whether you're coming in through high school or you're coming in through the college route, once you get in, we do an aptitude test right away for any apprentices that are looking to join. We do an aptitude test, and then those who are successful through that come in for an interview. And then once we select the group that we think is going to be the best fit out of that intake, that's where the training starts. Okay, so training is right off the bat. You do a full week with us, and we get you accustomed. We go over a lot of the laws, which through the Green Book, the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Okay, just so you know, one, what your rights are, and two, we make you comfortable operating machinery that you're going to, like a forklift or a power elevated worklift that you're going to be using fairly regularly on job. From your lockout tagout, which is one of the most underestimated skill to have is knowing how to properly lock out. You do not want to stick your hands in anything or any part of your body or
Mm-hmm.
risk anybody a machine
Good
starting
call. Good
because
call.
if you've watched Terminator, the movies, the machines always win. Okay. And that's basically what it is now. So
Yeah.
so once you do that, you're an apprentice registered with us, 8,000 hours, okay, of basically training. You're in an 8,000 hour apprenticeship. And through that 8,000 hours, you go to school for 3 8-week blocks we have good partnerships with the colleges across this country. And again, I can speak for my area with Mohawk College and Conestoga College. We have a great relationship with them to basically, we all have the same goal. We want to develop the best. And I think we owe that to not only our members, but also our stakeholders and contractors that we're going to provide the best product for them. And we get that through one, proper recruitment, and two is training. So once you do your 8,000 hours, you do your 3 terms of school. Each term's 8 weeks long, and usually go about every 2,000 hours, so like 2,000, 4,000, 6,000.
Mm-hmm.
Usually get the invite from the ministry, and then you go challenge your certificate of qualification, or we call the CFQ, and then you become a journey person. So like my business, we're in the business of making journey persons. That's what we are, and we start off with apprentices, and we can mold you if you just have an attitude, a good attitude. You want to put in a good effort, and you're punctual, and you're safe. You're gonna have a great career, and that's no matter what. Just work and be safe, and that's really pretty it. Keep your trade certificates or your
Hmm.
safety certificates up to date, because that's employability. That's what we have to really reiterate to people is your employability. Like every training, all the training you do and the excess training, like say you're off one day, see what's going on at the hall. Like that's what we encourage people to do, because if there's a course that's going on that, hey man, maybe that might get you a couple of weeks of work. You know what I mean? Extra that you wouldn't have had or something. So training is by far our biggest or one of our biggest expenditures or expenses as an organization, because it's something we're committed to and our stakeholders know that.
Wow. Okay. There's a few things that I might just ask you just for some clarification. So you've been
Yep.
saying the term we. Could you just
Mhm.
clarify what we mean by we in this case?
The Millwright Regional Council,
Oh,
Canada.
okay.
That,
Okay.
that's yeah, that's
Oh,
that's we, all our locals. And I say we, that means all 13 of our locals in Canada, or actually I should say 14, because we have a council in Eastern Canada, the Atlantic region. That's eventually they will be part of us, but right now due to some changes that they're still working on getting Atlantic Canada into our council. But when I say we, I mean Millwrights, the Millwright Union across Canada.
okay. And then the next one was journeyman, because I thought the journeyman was a specific type of trade, to be honest with you. For some reason, I always had the trade that I don't know where I got it, but I always thought it was related to the electrical field. So is that a term used for someone who has their apprenticeship?
Yeah,
I'm
so so
okay.
what a journey person is, so a journeyman or journey person, what they are, anyone that's in a registered skilled trade, okay, electrician, pipe fitter, millwright, iron worker, boilermaker, like you can go on and
Hmm.
on, sheet metal, insulator, like you can go on and on and on. Like there's quite a few registered trades in Ontario and Canada. So what you do is when you complete your apprenticeship, everyone has their apprenticeship. Every single trade has their
Hmm.
criteria to complete an apprenticeship. Once you complete your apprenticeship, you get your hours, you finish your schooling, then you go challenge that CFQ. Once you're successful in challenging that CFQ, you are then designated as a journey person within that trade. So it's an open for the skilled trades. It's just an open
Okay.
term. It means basically you got your diploma and
Oh,
you're
okay.
yeah, like that's what it means. You've completed that. Okay, you are experienced. You've done your dues, and now you've passed everything, and you're deemed competent to be considered a journey person in that skilled trade.
Okay. So like if you were a millwright, you were a millwright and a journey person because you've completed your skills training and such.
Yeah, I'm a millwright journey person. That or there'll
Okay.
be an electrician journey person, or a pipe fitter journey
Oh,
person, or a welder journey person. Right? There's
okay.
apprentices and there's journey persons.
Okay.
So
I
in
just
order to
learned
be a
something
journey
new.
person, there you go. Well, hey,
Huh. Okay.
perfect.
And then the last thing was you just mentioned hall. So is
Yep.
that like the place where is that the meetup place?
Yeah. So
Okay.
when we have we use a lot of, like every industry, we use nicknames and acronyms for a lot of things. But
Yeah.
anyways, the hall, when we say the hall, is the local union. Okay,
Okay.
so here our hall is at 63 Denton Drive up on Hamilton Mountain. When we This is also our training center here. It's where the operations happen. So when I say hall, that's or when anyone references the hall, that means the union hall. So where the operations
Hmm.
actually happen, the office of the union is
Okay.
at the hall, or that local is the hall.
Okay. 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 Wow. Okay. So I have learned a lot. And now that I'm thinking about it, I can see I like how with this field, it's something that it seems approachable in the sense that it's very important to be, you have your high school or your equivalent, and then you do the aptitude test. And it's more of that like litmus test to see if you're well suited, but it's not one of those buildups where you need a science degree or you need a
No.
no. So that really opens up the doors for maybe someone who's later in life trying to figure out what they want to do. Maybe they tried something like in your, I know you did it because of the sports, but maybe they went into business and they kind of had that itching that, oh, maybe I should have gone into that. So there's still that opportunity that you can switch if you have that aptitude. So that's really cool.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of actually second careers, people coming, second, third careers sometimes even, because they're looking at, you just turn on a TV right now, all they talk about, or turn on the radio, all they're talking about is skilled trades demand. There's so
Yes.
so much
Yeah.
demand in the skilled trades, and it's true. And like again, like I require four things, or we as an organization require four things. If you can do those four things, you are going to have a great career. Again, it's one, be safe. Okay, work safe. Okay, no cowboys. We don't want them. We don't even want to entertain anybody that's going to be a cowboy or be a risk to others. Because a lot of the time, it's not the idiot that gets hurt. It's the people around them that get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So like safety is number one for us, and that is done through training and education to know what your entitlements are, know what's right, know what's wrong. And there's also common sense, right?
Yeah.
So, and then second thing is be on time, be punctual. You know, for us, if you're not 15 minutes early, like if you start at 7, if you ain't there by quarter to 7, you're late. Like you got to be ready to go, boots, tie, coveralls on 7 o'clock, not rolling in the parking lot at 7 and taking your time, throwing your boots in the air, getting them from the truck. No, we're looking for people that want a career, not a job. And there's a very big difference between a career and a job. Okay. So that's punctuality. That's number two. Number three, have a good attitude. We're not asking to be Superman or Superwoman or, be Mr. Spunky, but it's, don't be toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Be someone where people, they don't have to love working with you, but they don't want to hate working with you. Okay. Cause it goes a lot for morale and people see it. And that's any industry. That's anywhere. Is morale has a very big part with employees. And then the last thing is effort. Put in an effort. Again, not asking to be Superman or Superwoman. Just put in an effort. And you put in a good day's work, you're gonna come home with all your fingers and toes and everything intact. You're gonna be tired, but you're gonna have some money in your pocket. And a good thing with us is that we definitely our wages that we've negotiated and our total package that we've negotiated for our collective agreement is we make good money and we just ask that you work and put in a good day's work. And you can do that, you're going to have an excellent career.
Well, I think those are all very solid expectations. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. And if anything, they're essentially what they should be. Keeping safe is the first and foremost one, which is good. And, it's funny because it's good that you're taking the time to talk about these types of things, because I'll be honest, when I was in high school, because I was more like, I like the sciences and such, but I never really gave it any thought if I maybe even had an ounce of becoming a millwright. Like it's just not something that was on my radar. And I do wonder if the opportunity or the conversation happened earlier, maybe I would have thought to consider this type of thing. And that's why I'm hoping to have more of these conversations go out there, because it's really interesting to learn about. It's just, yeah.
And a lot of things that people say like, oh well, I'm not, I don't know how to take apart a car or fix my own
Yeah.
car. How can I become? It's like, well, you don't need to. Like, we can teach you. Like, if you're willing to learn, we can teach you the trade. You just got to be willing to learn and ask questions. If you close your mind to it, and again, this isn't like rocket science. This is every day. This is any industry, any job whatsoever. If you're willing to learn and putting an effort to be the best at your career that you could possibly be, you're going to be successful. And that's any field. It's the people that are lazy, don't want to, only half-ass it, or, don't concentrate. It's like, well, what are you really in it for?
Yeah,
do
that's
you want to
true.
be the best at what you want to do? Or I'm not saying you got to be the number one in the world. No, but you do it where
Be your
you feel
best.
good. Yeah, just be your best. And again, this is your career. This is what's going to be paying your rent or mortgage and putting food on your table and a roof over your. Like, this is a career. It's not a job. And I have to stress that. And we stress that a lot because we are looking for people in the careers, because our retention rate right now is the highest out of the skilled trades. And it's because we take an apprentice or we take a journey apprentice and we mold them. And then we make them the best version of themselves, and they get it. Like, we have our apprentices, we like my local I can speak of, but I'm thrilled with our apprentices. They get it. Okay. It took some, they get what our goals are, and they follow with it. And our retention rate's well over 95%. I'm going to say probably the average is about 50%, just over 50, I'm
Wow.
going to say, with the other trades. So,
Jeez.
and that says a lot to us though, right? It says that we're doing something right, that are keeping these people working. And we're doing that, one, again, through education and training, and our members are staying working because we are high demand.
Well, let's
So
dive more into that environment because again, this is a food focused
mhm.
podcast and you touched a little bit about that. So let's talk about if you were a millwright that was working in the food related space, like where would you be working? What types of things would you be doing? Like what companies would you be working at? What would you be doing? And what would the work environment be looking like in terms of the day to day?
So you have the contractor wise, so because we deal with a lot of the subcontractors where they hire their millwrights off us. We have signatory contractors. We have just over 160 that are signed with the millwrights union, and which means that if they hire a millwright, that has to come through us because they basically entrusted in us that they're going to get the best product from us, and then our products are people. And we're going to make sure that when they show up to a job site, they're prepared and they're trained and they're ready to go. So with food and beverage, it's multi-trade contractors. Usually you have your like the contractors, like the bigger contractors that do everything, and then you have your smaller niche contractors. Like for my area, the bigger contractors that are really in the food and beverage is Trademark Industrial, AIM Industrial, Pivot Systems. And then you got your smaller contractors, which focus specifically on food and beverage, and those are like the complete mill writing and fabrication companies like that. A company that's actually called Complete, and they and I know he specifically goes after just food and beverage, but
Mm,
the other big players like the trademark safes, they're established in these places and they do a lot of work in there. So it's really it's again, mill rating it's pretty niche when it comes to because usually a lot of time you find just certain companies sticking to one industry where then you get your other companies like the big ones that'll do a bit of everything. So with those companies, like one of my favorite jobs I've done was actually building the smart food, the popcorn, smart food, the popcorn.
yeah.
I did that job with Doritos, and like I'm a Dorito fan. Sweet chili heat. That's my jam. Like I love sweet, like those, and the Cool Ranch, and the like that. And so I got the opportunity to actually build the lines that build these, and just a funny thing that they do is they get you to test out the product too sometimes just
Ooh.
to make sure that it's they're doing it. And then obviously once you do that, they completely clean everything. Like there's protocol with hats up and stuff like that
Hmm.
that has to be done. But it's the food and like I said, food and beverage. It's a great area to work. It's recession proof, which is huge. Everyone needs to eat. So
Hmm.
that's why we try to have a fairly big foothold on the food and beverage industries because everyone needs to eat. And you know what? It's good work. I enjoy the work in there. It's smaller machinery usually. It's a lot of conveyor systems, different types of conveyor systems, whether you're working at a bakery or, I was a fan of working in bakeries just because it actually smelled really good in there. And
Yeah.
um, so, and then, go to the places like the Chips or, Molson, I've been at
Hmm.
Molson on Carlingview there a few times and, it's a neat the machinery that's in there. Honestly, you learn something new every time I go into these places and what's going on. What's new in the industry, and then you go into a place like Bolton, you see like a bottle washing line that's washing 1,000 bottles a second
Hmm.
or whatever it does, and you're like
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Like, and I built that. Like, I'm gonna make sure that thing works, and then I'm gonna build it. So
So is it like assembling the pieces together, or is it actually creating the pieces that make up these machines?
So usually when we get a machine, usually the manufacturer or an OEM, usually they create it, they build it in their facilities wherever they build it. Usually it's overseas where they build it. Then they put them in sea cans, they ship them over to us, and we take it from the shipyard or the truck yard, wherever it comes in. However, we bring it to the facility and we build it from there. We take all these pieces that they've sent us, and it's essentially like Lego, just really
I
expensive.
was just thinking that.
It's like really, yeah, really expensive Lego with stuff that moves and can really hurt you too. So,
For sure. Okay, that makes see, this is dispelling some types of things. And then you have I know we're saying Lego, but there's definitely a lot of intricacies making sure that
oh
things are
God, yeah,
safe
like
and putting it together like metal on metal, like all those
Oh,
types of things.
so these Lego pieces, when I say it's a lot more than just Lego.
Yeah,
Like we're
I
we're
know.
aligning these Lego pieces that are made of solid steel machine surfaces that weigh 30 tons. Like, so it's a, but we're
Hmm.
putting them and we're installing them within, a 2 thou tolerance, so 2 thousandths of an inch, so 0.002 of an inch. Like that's Millwright. Because
Wow.
when stuff is operating so quickly and so fast, and
Hmm.
whether it's say a press, or even go to food and beverage, where they make the muffins, those machines that pump out 24 muffins in a tray at a time, or up to 100, you know what I mean? That all that, like, that has to be precise. Imagine if that thing was off a little bit, it'd be squirting batter everywhere, and then you'd lose product.
Right.
And losing product would be losing money. And then, but, customers don't like losing money because they're not in the business of losing money. So it's there's a lot more to it. It's not just putting it together
Yes.
and
Yeah.
let it run. It's like there's an extensive amount that
Of
goes into
course.
making sure it works. But it's just alignment's a huge thing for us. And then once we get it all aligned, we usually weld it all together while
Hmm.
keeping that tolerance. So
That makes sense. But it's a good way of just getting it to someone who doesn't, like our audience, who might not know anything about this field and maybe thinking about it. It's a good way of just getting an idea of, okay, I like putting things together, look at the intricacies, like seeing how things work, and like being that person, it can give you a better idea of, oh, but then I get to be really cool and do it on a large scale and really get to focus on that precision. So I think it's a good eye opener, because it is for me, because I have been exposed to a few the maintenance workers when I was working in quality assurance. If the line was down, I would speak to them and how long is it going to take, and those types of conversations. So hearing that behind the scenes makes more sense.
yeah, and it's funny you say that with QA because they're usually, well, it's usually the plant managers that are covered. It's like, hey, why isn't this fixed? It's like, hey, buddy, you have like a $50 million machine here, and I'm trying to figure out what part to make sure this this
Yeah.
this works properly. Okay, because if we don't get this right, guess what else is going to fail next? So you know what
Yeah.
I mean? But again, it's time's money. Like
Yeah.
that's the reality that we live in when we're dealing with production. And
Yeah.
again, it don't matter what industry it is or anything like that. It's time's money, and they when a machine's down, they want it up, especially when you're
Yeah.
when you're losing out on filling 100,000 bottles of pop, or a
Hmm.
100,000 cookies or whatever. Like that's money. So and it's understandable, but
Yeah.
you know and that'll never change. Like you'll always have the management bug in you and be like, hey, is this done yet? It's like, yeah, buddy, I
Absolutely.
literally just tied up my boots. Like I can we like it's
Yeah.
7:01. I started at 7. So
I I've seen it. I've seen it.
uh
I haven't been the one giving it, but I've heard the conversations. So,
yeah.
but with that being said, like I did want to cycle back a little bit, because we did talk about shifting in robotics and that, and just the field of being ML, like, is there any emerging technologies, or has there been any shifts recently that are impacting the field of mill writing? Like, is there, I guess I'm just thinking about students or individuals looking to go into it, like the movement of the future, like where is this field going? Is it, has there been great changes?
For us, not like Millwright again. I think we're fairly protected right now when it comes, because you still need they haven't figured out robots fixing each other yet, like
Mhm.
for machines. So they still need us, the humans, and skilled humans as millwrights, to go and fix these machines so that automation can work. So again, goes back to the alignment, goes back to everything, because they haven't figured out how to get robots to do it yet, to look after themselves yet, which I'm cool with, and I hope it lasts another, I don't know, 20 something years until I get to retire. But it's I think we're pretty safe, and like changes that I've seen just in the last year. Like I was reading something the other day that the first iPhone, I think, came out in 2007. I'm like, what has changed? Like how much the world's changed since
Mm-hmm.
2007.
Yep.
So you look at that. Now let's go into our industry. Okay. Like right now, automated racking systems, like their thing, automated conveyor systems when it comes to food and beverage. Like we just our members and stakeholders, we just finished projects all across Canada for Voila, the grocery delivery
Yep.
place. And you want to talk about cool, like those, we call it the honeycomb. And basically it's a giant factory, and it's just think about honeycomb. It's sectioned basically squares. And through there's guy wires all through the ceilings and all through the wires, and it's literally robots going all around. They're going in this honeycomb in this grid, and they're filling orders to then be loaded onto a truck. Robot, like
Wow.
we build that. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
it's hard to fathom more, you know, my a real big eye opener for me was just the state of automation right now was we just did a project for Amazon at the Hamilton Airport for our guys and in St. Thomas there. And you look at that conveyor system and you can't even watch these packages, how fast they're going, and it's being sorted like by postal code to where it's
Hmm.
prime or not prime, it's 2 day shipping, like these things are flying past you, but you know what, it's accurate. And they're doing that with food and beverage. Like if you ever watch being a Dorito made, it's pretty cool, like just the sequence of when it goes and goes in its little
Yeah.
oil bath to where it goes and gets seasoned, like it's like no human ever touched that, like
Yeah.
literally the whole thing until it gets to the consumer.
It's crazy.
So, but for us, guess who installs all that equipment and maintains it? It's us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And so like if things do break down, like because I know if things do break down or if you're coming in to make these repairs and such, like how does that process work in terms of, because many of these things are very specialized pieces of equipment. It's not like
mhm.
there's like it's not like you can go online and just like look up the operations manual, pardon me, look up the operations manual. Or maybe you can't, I don't know. How does that process work in terms of troubleshooting and fixing things?
So it all depends on the severity of what it is, and actually the on the piece of equipment, right? Like how big of an asset is it to this company? So if it's something like it's the bread and butter machine, usually what will happen is for planned maintenance. So this is something like we're gonna shut it down before it breaks. Okay, that's planned maintenance. Usually they'll have an OEM or an equipment rep there from the manufacturer, just to bounce ideas off of. But
Hmm.
a majority of the time, it's usually, we show up to a place like, okay, this thing ain't working. And it's hopefully like it's a lot faster to diagnose something when it's running because then you can see what's wrong. You can see it or you can hear it or you can feel it, vibration. There's different things to
Mm,
do with diagnosing, right? It's a lot easier. The problems comes when the machine ain't running and you're just going off of a production worker being like, oh yeah, it's making some ticking noise or it's just stopped doing this. It's like, okay, well, this is a really big machine. Let's figure this out. And then
hmm.
so that's just one way to. So it's either they send the equipment or the customer has a rep there with you, or we figure it out. But like new technologies, getting back to new technologies, I went to what's called PackX, which is basically a packaging. So a lot of food and beverage equipment manufacturers are there, from bottling lines to chip making lines to making cream cheese. Like they had everything at this place.
Yeah.
It was in Chicago, and I went around to some of these firms that do a lot of the sensors, like so whether it's limit switches or anything like that, that tells, say like when a baking tray comes up, a limit switch tells the machine when to stop that conveyor so that the tray ahead of it can finish cooking or doing whatever it needs to do, right? So
Right.
nothing gets what we call popcorning, and just picture two packages hitting each other, and a bunch of packages on a conveyor hitting each other. There's nowhere to go, and then it popcorns out. It just like, blows up and all over the place, and it falls off the
Okay.
conveyor. Okay.
Okay.
So, but what they're doing now is actually using augmented reality to do a lot of diagnosing, or it's starting to become. So it's literally you put a headset on, not VR, it's usually glasses that go over one eye.
Yep.
And this is all
Oh
new
my
technology.
gosh.
So I'm speaking of like new technology,
Yeah.
and literally the demonstration that I had, I was doing it with a machine at one of the booths, and I was talking with a guy in Germany, and he was an equipment specialist on that specific piece of equipment that we're looking
Uh-huh.
at. And anywhere I looked, you would see on my screen, it's exactly what he sees. And then,
That's
but on
so
my
crazy.
screen, it will say, oh, this is sensor J55. This is, pneumatic cylinder number 3. And as you look across and you're scanning, it'll actually tell you the sensors that are defective because of the automation.
Oh my
So
gosh.
they're actually using
Oh,
augmented reality now, and they're connecting us with people across to be like, hey, that's your problem. This is the part number you need now. So that's we'll send you this part number and you're just going to swap that out and then your machine is fixed. So that's where we're at now. And do you know how
Wow.
much time that
Yeah,
saves? Over
I'm thinking
60%
about it.
diagnostics.
Yes.
60% they were saying. And that's hours, hours and
That's
hours and hours
yeah, that
of
sounds
save
right.
time.
Because I know half the time when you're on a phone call with someone and you're like trying to hold up camera, like at least for like my
Yeah.
troubleshooting types of things, like I was recently trying, I mean, it's not the same thing, but we were trying to diagnose why our pieces of equipment in the science lab that I'm working at, and I'm
Mhm.
trying to explain what it is, and they're going back and forth. Can you get the camera? And I'm just like, hold on, like, so to imagine like these more facilitated conversations, and if for people who actually know what they're looking at more so,
Yeah.
wow, that would be amazing. Wow. Whew, that's cool.
It's neat. Honestly, it really like I that
Yeah,
was, like I don't get blown away too often by like new stuff because usually when you see advancements they're gradual, you know. It's
exactly.
an
Yeah.
improvement of the year before, but this
Yeah.
one when I saw like how they're using augmented reality, I'm like, that is cool. That is definitely the future. Like that's
See, those are the small things that make the changes in the technological space that make sense. They're so minor that you wouldn't really notice it. Like it's not going to be on the news or something because it's not a generative text creator, but it's like a tangible thing that makes sense that makes your job easier with those like little steps. So, wow.
oh
Well, getting back to the conversation at hand, because we are coming close to the end of our conversation, and there was just like a few quick questions that I wanted to talk about in terms of potential career growth. So once you become a journey person, is there like, do you become like a higher journey person? Like what could someone see
training
their
person's the start. Yeah. So
okay.
that just means you basically graduated your apprenticeship. You are now what we deem competent. Okay.
Okay.
You're a competent tradesperson. So that's the start. So again, my path, I went from apprenticeship to becoming a journey person. And from there, I went on to being a foreman. And then from there, I got into or while I was working on the tools still, I was part-time a trainer from 2014. And then I would do all the training for our local. And then eventually in 2020, I came full-time. So I left my supervision job to train full time and develop curriculum to make the best product possible in our people. That and now I'm the business rep. I'm vice president and business rep of my local. This is one of the best recruiting questions, honestly, that I love getting because people just think once you're done or you get your job, that's it. It's like no, like
Yeah.
that you're just starting. Like we have people that start their own companies. We have members that work their way up from, foreman, project manager, vice president, president, CEOs. It's what do you want to put into it? If you want to improve on your career, you want to upgrade your career, you want to go to the next step, there's every opportunity possible for you to do that. And that's in any trade. That's just not mill rating. That is in any trade. Okay. The opportunities are endless of where you want to go. It's what are you going to put into it? What do you want to do? You got to figure out what you want to do too. Right. Some people want to just be on the tools. We make a pretty good living. Like
Hmm.
like like our like in Ontario, our journey person wage is 47.67 right now plus 10%. So you're making over $50 an hour. You know what
Pretty
I mean?
solid.
Then you get $8.50 an hour on top of that for your pension that you have no idea that's even accumulating that's going on your behalf of retirement. Then there's the other things on top of that. So, you know, people are okay with just working on the tools. They don't want the responsibility because I can tell you firsthand, this is, for just the way my brain works. When I was a foreman, it was very hard to shut my brain off and to think, hey, we got to lift tomorrow. How are we going to do this? Or I like this
Hmm.
idea, but I wonder if it's going to be like that. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
always thinking. So some people don't like that. They just want to go home, shut their brain off, enjoy their family, watch the hockey game and have a beer. That's it. But
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like where the other people like my phone's on me. It's the job. I thoroughly enjoy my job that I'm doing right now as a business rep. Yes, my phone's on all the time but I don't mind. I signed up for that. I knew
Mm.
what it was, and that's the path that I wanted to take after I realize all the different paths that there was to go. And it's like, no, you know what, I want to follow this path. And I'm fortunate enough that my council and our executive team, they trusted or had trust in me and they hired me. So but when all the people that I deal with from the company, say, all the big players, the Acons and all of them, everyone running them were tradespeople. So like the decision makers are tradespeople when it comes to those projects. Like when it comes to anything like that, okay, it's what do you want to put in there? What do you want to take out of it? And then once you figure that out, you'll figure it out. Then you go that path. Set a goal.
Amazing. Well, I'm actually going to leave it there because I love those words and I think that's a good place to stop. So the last question I will ask you though is where can people find you, Noel?
So UBC Millwrights.ca is our council's website. From there, you can find all our locals. We're Millwright Local 1916.ca, like my local, or you can find us through that UBC Millwrights.ca to find any of the locals within Canada. Like I said, we're not just Hamilton and Kitchener-Waterloo. We're everywhere. Every single part of this country will be. So you can go to that website, get connected with the local that's close to you. If you're looking to start an apprenticeship, or you're a journey person and you want to stop selling yourself short and actually come and make some real money, we have, like I said, those 4 things I told you about earlier. Like if you have those, you're gonna have a great career.
Perfect. Well, I'll make sure to link those in the show notes to make it easy for everyone to find. So thank you so much, Noel, for coming on the show, educating me on a lot of things. I feel a lot more of an understanding to this field. It's been a little bit of a black box for me. And I'm like, okay, I get it now. Or at least
Yeah.
I've scratched the surface of it. So I hope those listening as well feel the same. So thank you for coming on the show.
All right, awesome. Anytime. I appreciate the opportunity.
That was episode 80 of the Food Grads podcast. All the notes to this podcast can be found by clicking on the Student and Grads tab on the homepage. There you can find any notes to past or future episodes. Once again, thank you to our partner Careers Now for their continued support of this podcast, so we can continue to deliver great conversations like the one you just heard. Since I started being a part of Food Grads, I have heard for many years that there is a need for millwrights. The whole warning about the baby boomers retiring is coming up now, and they seriously need millwrights. Though thinking back to my high school days, I can barely remember being suggested to become a millwright. Maybe it's because I was university bound, so they never pushed it on me. Fun fact, I actually at one point was considering to be a funeral director, but decided not to when I realized that I had to take college-bound courses. That is something that always annoyed me about school. They want you to explore all these different careers, but then your course structure discourages things. I know that there's all these transitions and all that, but something that's always annoyed me. I'm not sure if it's the same thing in the States, but I hope it's not, and I do hope that things change with that. It's cool how Noel pointed out that you can become a millwright as a second career. You just need those working qualities such as working hard, showing up on time, like all those serious contenders, which are actually pretty important for most jobs. But now I think about it, I wonder if there's actually ever been a PhD that became a millwright. I'm sure there has been. That'd be a cool interview. If you want to check out any other millwright interviews that I've done, you can check out the past 2 interviews I did. One with Taylor Carr from Carmel Candy, she was actually a millwright apprentice at the time, and Robert Cunliffe, who is a maintenance manager and millwright for Flamingo Foods. Being a millwright's pretty cool. You get to combine that tactical movement with that brain-engaging thinking of putting things together. Honestly, take a serious think about if you've ever considered this career path. You never know, it might be worth it for you, and it sounds like there's a lot of really cool benefits. I will say from personal experience working in manufacturing that if maintenance isn't working, then everyone in the plant knows. So if you want to be a seriously important person, become a millwright. Anyways, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you everyone so much for listening, and I will see you next time.